Hello and welcome to another episode of Bare Bones Wargaming, a show with no bells, no whistles, no frills, just a man, a camera, and his game. Today's episode, we are going to take a look at continuing with our what if theme. Those of you who have been watching the last couple episodes, I've been playing a lot of Cataclysm, which I absolutely have loved, and I have posted a written review on Board Game Geek if you're interested in more detail about what I think about the whole game. It's on there currently right now. And I also was playing with the what if enemy in the East scenario regarding a German assault upon the Soviet Union in the summer of '39 using the unconditional surrender game. And going along with that theme here right now, as I mentioned at the end of the last episode, I'm now going to look at the Rhineland War, 1936, from World at War magazine number 21. Designed by Joe Miranda and published by Decision Games. So, as always, just going to jump right in here, but as the name implies, as most of you probably already know, the Rhineland crisis in March of 1936 is when Hitler marched into the Rhineland and took it back. That, of course, would be on this game board. Let's go up here a little bit. Right there. Okay, that's our key spot there. And also notice that little symbol there. That is a crisis spot in the game. Those are important for reasons that we'll get into here very shortly. But that is going to have a big influence on the game, those little crisis centers like that. So again, this was the first time Hitler kind of rolled the dice and pressed his luck, and his general's reaction was kind of like that of my that of my 2-year-old right now. When he sees something he doesn't like, he goes, no, 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 no. So, yeah, with a little O in the front usually, so it kind of comes out as, oh, no, 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 no. And of course, I tell him, hey, sometimes you got to be like the Kool-Aid man and go, oh, yeah. So, I guess you could say that Hitler was like the Kool-Aid man here and said, oh, yeah, and went for it, okay? And of course, nothing happened, but in this game, we are postulating that, yeah, things got sporty, to use a term I like. So, the game begins with only Germany and France's belligerents. Everybody else is neutral. The key mechanism of the game, because a lot of this game, as we go through it, you're going to see things that are familiar as wargamers, zones of control and lines of supply. I mean, pretty standard stuff there as far as that goes. Bringing on forces. There's nothing too earth-shattering here in the rules. The big thing, though, is, I know this is going to be a little loud, but hang with me here. This cup, because this cup is the crisis markers. These are markers that you'll be able to pull, or you will pull, I should say, not able to, but it's mandatory, at the end of each turn and see what kind of events happen. Now, this game can go off the rails really, really fast. Last game I played this as a warm-up, because I always play a warm-up game before I show you guys and take you along for the ride, so to speak, just to brush things off. It's been 2 years almost since I played this game. Just make sure I got everything pretty well down pat. Again, I might still make mistakes, and if I do, as always, please put them in the comments section, because again, we're all here to learn. And that game went off the rails big time, because as the Germans, I just tried to pound my way into France, and all of a sudden by May of 1936 it was Germany and the Baltic states and Romania, and the only reason Baltic states and Romania were on Germany's side is because the Soviet Union invaded both of them, versus France, the Soviet Union, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Great Britain, and then the dagger in the back really was when Italy jumped in on the Allies' side, which, yes, that can happen in this game. And at that point, to use a good German word, it was kaputt. Or, for those of you who are fans of Stalag 17, Gesundheit, everything was Gesundheit. And that was that. It was too much. Germany just could not hang on with all that pressure on them. So, let's see what happens this game. This game, quite frankly, in my opinion, there's two big strategies in Germany. You got two options here. You have option A, which again, it's a gamble. It's kind of like, quite frankly, it's like a Schlieffen plan. Basically swing through these states and try to get through Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg, by these states I mean, and swing through and try to knock out France before France can fully mobilize and before other countries can jump in. That's your one goal. Or the other thing you can do is play it a little more cautious and think about causing trouble over here in Central and Eastern Europe. Kind of what Hitler actually did, of course, with first the Anschluss and then eventually the whole Sudetenland incident. So what I'm going to do is, after that crazy insanity of the last game, I'm going to go ahead and play this game a little more cautiously for the Germans. Okay? So, let's get stuck into it. Let's get rolling. Enough gabbing. Let's play. Okay, so on each turn, first thing that happens is the mobilization phase. Now, mobilization phase is where you can bring in either reinforcements or units that are quote-unquote dead. And as most of you know by now, when we're talking about dead, we mean combat ineffective. Now, some cities, I'll show you two right here in Germany, are called mobilization centers. Okay, as you see there, there's Hamburg and Berlin. And see the numbers there, the 1 and the 2? Those are mobilization points. That tells you how many points you have to spend to bring forces back from the replacement areas. And then, of course, you can also bring your reinforcements in too as well. You can only put 1 unit in each mobilization center. So very important when you play this game for the first time. You deploy your forces, do not cover up your mobilization centers because you won't be able to bring them in on that first turn. The exception is air units. Air units are held in an off-map box and then can be utilized from any city using the range that is on them. Any functional city, I should say. More about that in a little bit. So, those are the mobilization centers. And one thing I've done too is up here at the top, you'll see these dice. What I've done is to keep track, because the map does get cluttered. I have 1 die for the crisis centers because that's important for pulling the crisis chits, and then I also have the mobilization value as well too to tell you how many mobilization points you have. And of course, as this is a magazine war game, naturally we have, let me just move you over here, tons of charts right on the map itself, and of course one of them again is the replacement chart. So let's start here with Germany. Now at the beginning of the game, and when countries come in, some countries get units right off the bat. Some of your forces, you can see my little turn marker there because there is no turn marker. Literally, there's no turn marker. You can see my little glow-in-the-dark skull from one of the nuclear war expansions. Maybe Proliferation? I'm not sure. It's been a long time. Anyway, so some of the forces, you have a die roll. M plus whatever the die roll is, with M being, of course, mobilization when you get into the game. And again, France and Germany are the only ones to start the game at war. So, right now here, as we look at this first one here, Germany has no reinforcements in the opening turn, but Germany does have some units here in the replacement box. So I'm going to go ahead and get some of those units, quote-unquote, back from the dead, aka combat ineffectiveness, and bring them into the game. Now, I have 9 mobilization points as Germany. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in 2 strategic air units. And basically, your air units can fly 1 mission a turn, and then they don't come back again until your mobilization phase. So keep that in mind. You commit them, and they're basically gone for an entire turn. Whenever you commit them, you can commit some air units as cap. More about that in a little bit. So, that cost me 4 points. That's 8 of my 9. Now, let me see the units I have left. I don't believe, let me check my chart, but I don't believe I have enough points. Let's see. Brigade or regiment? Well, no, that's not true. I do have 1 unit here. That's German that I could bring in. This SS unit here, which the SS units in this game, you're probably used to them being black, but everybody's green on the German side. So I'll go ahead and bring those guys into Berlin to defend Berlin. Okay? So there's my mobilization for them. Okay? Now, terror bombing phase. Now remember, this is 1936. This isn't 1939. And I hope I'm not butchering this name too bad, but at this point in time, the theories of the Italian aviation let me try that again with my tongue working. Theoretician Duho, I believe is how you pronounce that. Maybe not. If not, please let me know. But anyway, the whole thing he was about was bombing the enemy cities, you know, the terror bombings, breaking the will of the people. He thought that that was going to be the way to go. Of course, as we found out in World War II, with the Blitz and the Battle of Britain and other instances, you know, plastering cities did not break the will of the people. If anything, it made them more defiant, ironically enough. Perhaps Duho's ideas, though, are more applicable to nuclear strategy. Say, you know, something that's part of a book by Herman Kahn, so to speak. So, you have terror bombing in this game. Now, you can use it on cities to basically nullify their mobilization abilities, or you can use it on combat units and basically you can put them in a situation where they are going to be out of supply. So what I'm going to do here as my conservative German strategy here, because again, if you go into France, a lot of the chits, the crisis chits, bring countries in on the French side, because obviously it makes people very nervous if one big country is going to gobble up a second big country. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attack Czechoslovakia first. I'm going to leave the Poles alone for right now, because right now at this turn here there is weather effects, not a whole lot but some, but right now in Poland and Russia there is the spring thaw. I don't want to get into that, so I'm going to go ahead and attack Czechoslovakia, as well as occupy the Rhineland, of course, duh, naturally enough. Okay, so my terror bombing, very simple. You can use your TAC units, you can use your SAC units, and again, if you see here, you got the number in parentheses. That number is how many spaces from a city. You can fly them from any city, so long as it's functioning, doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm going to fly these guys from Berlin, and I'm going to go ahead and bomb both of these Czech fortresses here to the east of Prague, and basically try to reduce them down to minimal value with the terror bombing that I have. Now Germany also starts with two crisis markers right off the bat. Psy War, which is important for internal problems. This game does reflect that, both in Germany, France, and Russia. And there's also a shock effect, but I don't feel like I need to use the shock effect right now in this situation here. And I don't think I really need to terror bomb anybody else, because I'm not planning on attacking anybody else just yet. But as you can see over here in Hanover, when the time comes to attack France, which I might do after Czechoslovakia, and get some of those crisis centers and see how things shake down. So again, I am kind of playing a little bit of a conservative strategy here, I guess you could say, with Germany. So who knows, maybe I'll play part of this turn and part of this game and show you how it works, and then maybe I'll turn around and do a second video with just Germany going hell for leather, so to speak, and going through the Low Countries and going wild, like Schlieffen on steroids, so to speak. Alright, so now, with the terror bombings going on here, we're just going to consult the terror bombing chart, big shocker there, and see if there's any kind of modifiers. There are. There is a +1 here if it's a SAC unit doing the bombing. So I'm just going to go left to right here. This one, then this one. Let's see what happens. Got a 6 +1 is 7. That space is terror. The other one, 2 +1 is 3. Not so good. It didn't work out so well. Okay, so I won't be able to completely turn the flank of the position here, which is unfortunate. Okay, but you know, and you can only commit one marker to a hex per with each mission, basically. So you got to kind of keep that in mind as well too. All right, so that's it for terror bombing. I'm not doing anything else with that. Okay, Axis movement phase. And again, this is pretty standard movement stuff. You know, rough terrain costs you more. Mechanized units are harder to move through rough terrain and such. Rivers give you +1 to your movement. I mean, there's nothing earth-shattering there. And of course, if you cross into anybody's territory, then you bring them into the war. So I'm about to do all kinds of crazy stuff here on Czechoslovakia. So Czechoslovakia is about to come into the conflict here. But for this opening turn, I'm not going to do a whole lot of movement, to be honest here. Okay. The one thing I am going to do is I'm going to cross into the Rhineland here, which of course is not in France. Now, why am I stressing that? Because again, a lot of these crisis markers, reactions of other countries like Poland and such, and even Italy. If you're in France and that marker comes out, bad things can happen. Okay, so you do have to kind of, I mean, there are, you know, a boatload of markers here, as you can see. But still, if you pull the wrong marker, man, you're going to pay for it as the German side. You got to move fast and furious here. Okay, so I've moved into the Rhineland. I'm not going to move anybody else right now for Germany. I'm happy with what I've got here. Zones of control in the game, when it comes to movement and combat, you can't move from enemy zone of control to another. That just can't happen. And you can move out and then move back in, but once you're in there, you basically have to stop for that particular turn if you move into it here. So we're going to have two battles here. I'm going to attack here and attack here. Now, typically, rough terrain would give the defender ×2 defense, but when it comes to fortification hexes here, so I'll zoom in on the two combats. Let's do that. Well, one of the special rules with fortifications is they do not get doubled. Okay, other units will get their combat factor doubled, but fortifications, that would not happen. Why are we so... There we go. I was wondering why we were so blurry. Alright, so we'll start here with the space that has the terror marker in it. Okay, now, in this game, there are two combat tables. There's the attrition and the mechanized. The mechanized combat table, very important thing about it, all you need is one mechanized unit to use the mechanized combat table. So keep that in mind. You don't need the majority, you just need one. Okay, and with as many mechanized combat units as Germany has, that's kind of a big advantage to the Germans. But then again, you know, they were really pushing that kind of thing. And then, of course, don't forget, too, that, you know, the Panzer divisions, you know, when we say Panzer division, we think tank, but there was so much more to them. They were really an integrated combat unit. You know, they had their own artillery, their own anti-aircraft, including with all the tanks and stuff as well. So, we'll start here, and basically, this is standard. You just add up the combat factors. So I've got 4... and then 4 times 3 is 12, so 12 and 4, that's 16, 18, 19, I've got 21, 2, 3. Now this is a percentage one, but basically, you know, if you do the odds, like 7 to 1 is basically 700%. I mean, that's what, you know, that's what's going on here, okay? So it has to be attrition combat because I'm attacking a fortification. Otherwise, the mechanized units would have allowed me to choose the mechanized table. And you just roll a die. I rolled a 3. So 3 is DD. Result. DD is defender defeated. So eliminate the unit with the highest printed defense factor. That would be the fortification. Surviving defending units don't exist. Would retreat. And the attacker may pursue. Basically, that's advance after combat. 1 hex. So I will go ahead and permanently eliminate fortifications. Fortifications you cannot bring back into the game. I will bring these guys into this hex. Stacking in the game is basically 1 army unit or up to 3 corps regiment type of guys in the same space. That's another advantage the Germans have. The German strongest combat units are corps units, whereas most other countries are armies, so they can only put 1 unit in a hex, whereas Germany can put 3 in a hex. So the war is on here. We've attacked Czechoslovakia, and we are rolling. Okay, now over here, this is going to be a little tougher here. Outside of Breslau, I've got 4 times 3 is 12 to 6. That's only 2 to 1. Now, if you commit a tactical air unit, you can shift over 1 column on the chart. So that's what I'm going to do here right now, is I'm going to go ahead and commit one of my tactical air units and fly it from Breslau, simply there, and that will move it from the 200% column to the 300%. So, and again, I've moved, I'll just show you real quick here, well, I'll show you in a minute, but I moved the cup for pulling the chits and also the dice tire off to the side a little bit. Hopefully that'll make it a little quieter, because I know it was kind of loud with the proximity. Let's see if that worked out or not. I don't know. Alright, here we go. So again, roll just a single die. This time it's a 5. 5, so we got another DD. Defender defeated. So bye-bye fortifications. Hello, advance into Czechoslovakia. Okay, so the Germans' opening move, going very well. We're on our way into Czechoslovakia, and there are 2 crisis hexes there. Again, the more crisis hexes there are, the more crisis chits you get to pull from the cup. And again, what I was talking about here, you can see I went over to my side table. I had the side table here, which is kind of storage slash auxiliary to my big gaming table here. And there's where all the stuff is over there. So we'll see if that was far enough away or not. Okay, so Axis combat phase. I'm pretty much done now. I'm not looking to attack anybody else. I could have emptied Berlin out, and I probably should have. That was a mistake for mobilization purposes. So we'll see how bad I pay for that next turn. That was dumb. I should have moved that out. But again, that's kind of one of the things I guess that happens sometimes is you get caught up and you get rolling in this. It's like, yes, let's go, move it, yeah, like getting the bridle bit between your teeth, so to speak, and away you go. So that's what happened there. Okay, so now Axis rally phase is the next part of our phase here. So remove terror bombings from Axis units. Don't have that. Allied player removes all caps. When it's the Allied player's turn, they can put down combat air patrols. Combat air patrols not only patrol the hex they're put in, but the 6 hexes around them as well. And the Axis player, I can place TAC units on the map that will perform caps. So I've got 2 TAC units left. So what I'm going to try to do here is I'm going to go ahead and place one on its cap side over top of course, the Rhineland, which I just grabbed. And now we're up to the big part, the huge part of the game, the crisis phase, where we pull our crisis markers. So this game, the crisis markers are huge because, quite frankly, the best analogy I can think of here is it's like playing No Limit Texas Hold'em. The swings can be huge. Like I said, that last game, I mean, just having that bad luck, like on the first turn, right off the bat, the crisis markers they pulled, the Axis pulled the Soviet Union. And in the game, if the Axis pulls it, it becomes active to the Allies. Well, quote-unquote active and friendly to the Allies, but let's be honest, Uncle Joe's going to start gobbling up his territory, whatever territory he can get his grubby paws on. So, Alright, so here we go. Now we're going to draw our crisis markers. Now there's a chart over here, okay? I have 1 crisis space, so I get to pick 2 markers and implement them. So here we go. So I will pick them both and put them face down. And then I will reveal them one at a time. And you can see what's got to happen here. So let's zoom in. The momentous political events here of our crisis. So here we go. Alright, so this was the first one I drew, so we'll do this one first. You ready? Here we go. I say to my 2-year-old, ready, steady, go. Oh, Bulgaria. Okay. Well, let's see. What does it say about Bulgaria? Axis pick. Bulgaria, what? Bulgaria becomes an allied country. What? How in the world? Okay, whatever. So, we're going to take Bulgaria and put it up there by the Allies. OMG. Yeesh. Sorry, didn't mean to sound like a Valley girl there. But, really, seriously. Now, let's see if Bulgaria gets any reinforcements. I don't think they do, actually. No, Bulgaria's just got their 1 combat unit. I sort of thought that was like that. So, right off the bat, got Bulgaria down there. Now, the only good news is Bulgaria really can't do much of anything. So, that's a happy thought. Alright, here's the second one. Whoops, sorry about that bump. The second one is logistics collapse. Now, this is one of the ones that there's some extra counters in World at War. I believe it's number 30 or 31. Hold on. I had it here somewhere because I picked it up a while ago. I've yet to play it, though. 30. The Hinge of Fate. About Poland and France in 39. Basically, the game is, if France had gone ahead and attacked. So this is one of those ones there. I don't think the conditions apply for this right now. Yeah, total, each player totals crisis hexes, you occupy 3 more hexes than the other. Well, no, they both occupy 1 right now because there's no crisis. I'm pretty sure there's no crisis markers, and now they ain't nothing. No crisis centers in Bulgaria. No one cares. This isn't going to be like World War I, as Bismarck said. Some damn fool thing in the Balkans kind of thing. So, okay. So, So we don't have the conditions, so we're going to return this one to the pool unplayed. All right. And that was the German turn. All right, so now we've got France and Czechoslovakia and Bulgaria all involved here. So let's start with the mobilization phase. Now, speaking of the mobilization phase, let's go ahead and dig out Czechoslovakia's units, because of course they're going to want to try to get their forces into the game here very quickly. And we'll just follow the chart and see what forces they begin the game with initially, and which ones come in as reinforcements here for Czechoslovakia. Okay, so Czechoslovakia has the units that are on the map. Oh, they had one TAC unit that should have been over in the box. Whoops. Guess they didn't get. Guess they weren't ready. They didn't get mobilized in time. Hey, look, you know, I look at it this way: when you make a mistake like that, things are going to happen, and you know, you can either weep and gnash your teeth about it and be like, I have to start over, or just be like, okay, you know what? Sometimes friction is the word. You know, not to make it sound like grease is the word, but hey, let's face it, we're all Clausewitzians on some level. All right, so let's check here what Czechoslovakia gets. So M+0, they'll get 1 infantry army, so they will have 1 infantry army available this turn to mobilize in the Allied mobilization phase. That's good news. And let's see, let's get dice for Czechoslovakia. And for all the minor Allied countries, I just use yellow dice. No, there's no hidden message to that. That just happens to be the color I choose to use. Well, that's all. So, now, the reason I need the dice, let me just show you, is, where are we? Here we are, we're doing Czechoslovakia. So see here how it says M+1. So I'm going to need to roll a die, and then on mobilization, which is March, plus, well actually that's +1, that one's fixed. Here's the one I'm looking at, I'm sorry. M+DR, so a die roll. So that will determine whenever these two guys will show up. So let's see what happens here. So 1 infantry army is going to be ready next turn. The Czechs will be finishing that mobilization in April of 36. Now, they got these 2 mechanized cav units. So we roll a die for each unit. So I rolled a 3 and a 4. So now we're going to go, let me zoom in here. We're going to go ahead and count for mobilization, which is the opening turn. 1, 2, 3. They will be coming in here in June, and I'm putting the Germans on top because the Germans go first. And then that one there in July. Okay, so the Czechs are fully mobilized. Again, Bulgaria has nothing else to do because, you know, they don't have any units. It's Bulgaria. No disrespect to Bulgaria, but at this point in time, you got 1 army, dude, and that's all you got. Okay, so all right, so now the mobilization phase. Okay, again, reinforcements, all that stuff come onto the map here. So let's start with the reinforcements. So France and Czechoslovakia both get reinforcements. Now, the bad news for Czechoslovakia is you cannot bring units into a mobilization center that is within an enemy zone of control, and you cannot negate that. Some things in the game you can negate. With a friendly zone of control, that's one of the things you can't. So what happens if you can't bring it in? It basically gets pushed back 1 turn on the track. So Czechoslovakia is going to have to try and counterattack and put that up there. Now, France has actually 3 mobilization centers empty. They had Paris and Lille, so they're going to go ahead and do that. And of course, the French also have 4 mobilization points. So they have some units in their quote-unquote dead pile. Got a couple of armored units, and again, armored units, as I said before, are very important because they allow you to use the mechanized combat table. So, I really should try to find a way to get them into the game. So let's check and see how much they cost. So this is a mechanized division for the French. That's going to cost basically all the replacement points. It's going to cost them 4. Okay, so because it's important, they're going to do that, and they're going to mobilize it, well, yeah, you know what? We'll mobilize it in Lyon because they can move 1 hex further. I had one game of this before where basically Britain jumped into the game really early. So I just had the British and French steamroll the Low Countries, which I know, probably would not happen. But hey, you never know. I mean, again, when people are like, hey, that wouldn't have happened. You know what? Nobody thought the Nazi-Soviet pact was going to happen either. Okay? I mean, some strange things do happen. That's all there is to it. It's kind of like the attitude of, that U.S. was going to win the war against Japan because, the industrial might of the U.S., etc. and stuff. But it is fascinating, I will say, and I'm reading Warplane Orange right now, how many of the guys that were making those plans for war against Japan were convinced that the American public would not tolerate a war of longer than 2 years. And that's, of course, part of what the Japanese were also considering, too. So, sometimes when we look at things in hindsight at 2020, it seems so quote-unquote clear to us. But in that moment, in that time period, things aren't necessarily that clear. And I think one of the harder things to simulate in a war game is those dynamic elements, those intangibles that are like that. Like with these front games, one of the big things coming, and some of the things that need to be revised, it seems, is just how much the combined arms skill of the German forces gave them such a huge advantage over the Russians. If you read like Stahl's books, if you read Barbarossa Unleashed, it becomes very obvious that that's why they were able to get in there and open an industrial-sized can of Kek Dupa and get so far as they did in 1941, which, by the way, tomorrow's the 77th anniversary for those of you into the East Front of the largest land campaign ever in the history of mankind. So, sorry, I digress. Let's go back to our situation here, which is 1936, France, Bulgaria, and Czechoslovakia versus the Reich. All right, now, so we mobilized. Now, terror bombing. We can do terror bombing if we want. Okay, but the French and the Czechs each only have 1 unit. And I am strongly thinking about trying to recapture the Rhineland from the Germans. Because that would let me draw another crisis chit. And if I want chit to happen, then I need to do that. So I'm going to save that for an air fight there. For the Czechs, their biggest problem right now is the fact that everything's being threatened, and I don't know, I almost want to go defensive with them. I got to be honest, and hope that somebody gets into the war here to threaten Germany. Be it Poland, be it the Soviet Union, even Austria. Unlikely, but yeah, that's what I'm thinking about right now. This is tough from the Allies' perspective to start the game. Okay, so movement-wise, here we go. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move this unit from here because I'm not going to do any terror bombing, I've decided. Okay, so we'll go 1. Now, I could go here next to this hex on the Italian border because since Italy is not active, zones of control do not extend across the border until a country is actually belligerent and active in the game. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 because I'm going to try and do some nastiness here on the Rhineland. And you know what? I'm going to add this to it too because that's only a division. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, because you can stack things with a fortified unit when it comes to stacking. This fortified unit doesn't count against your stacking limit. I gotta say, as the French, I'm very, very tempted, extremely tempted to think about going through the Low Countries. The only problem is there's not much support, and France is really not very well mobilized yet. Next turn, they'll have more units. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just kind of set the stage for that. So let's move these guys, 1, 2, 3 into there. Move these guys out, because remember, you want to leave your mobilization centers empty. Otherwise, you can't bring either replacement units or new units into the fray. Bulgaria is just going to sit. There's no reason for them to go anywhere right now. They really can't do anything. Not at the moment, anyway. I mean, there's people in between, and yeah, with only 1 unit, what exactly you're supposed to do? I mean, I guess you could go try and occupy a crisis hex, but Tyrrhenia is one of those crisis hexes, isn't it? But you got to go through Greece or Yugoslavia to do that. Nah, we'll sit still with Bulgaria for the time being. Okay. So what do I do with the Czechs? I got Bratislava covered. I have Pilsen covered. But if I don't cover Prague, gosh, this is such a tough one here for the Czechs. That first turn could not have gone worse for them. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead. I want to move the one unit there to Pilsen. I can't move the fixed units. If I move this guy to Bratislava, I'm leaving a crisis center wide open for the Germans to just walk in and take it. As much as I hate to say it, I'm going to hunker down with the Czechs. So we'll hunker down with the Czechs and hope for the best. Alright. Here we go. So, got the movement done. Now we'll do some combat here. Okay, and as the French, I will commit the air unit I have available here, and we'll fly it. Doesn't really matter from where, because we have cities controlled there. Logistics is pretty simple until you start conquering other countries. Once you start conquering other countries, then what happens is you need to use the rail nets that connect countries or connect cities together. And this rail net's not printed on the map. I know that's annoying, but and then you have to be able to trace it into a friendly control. You literally have to have a unit in a city that can then trace back to your friendly country. So the law of strategic consumption is going to come up and bite you in the dupa in this game. Okay, so we have a little air-to-air combat going on here because we have the Germans with this cap. So, and again, you know, there's a table here for combat air patrol fight. As the Germans, I could spend a shock marker to kind of protect that area and keep the French from there, but I think I'll keep it for some terror bombing next time. Okay, so roll a 4 and a 1. So what do we get here for combat air patrol? Well, both a 4 and a 1 is no effect, so the French will be able to get through and do their thing and give themselves that extra combat column shift here. Whoops, sorry about the bump. So here we go. So my cap didn't work out so well. So I've got a 4 here. There's no benefit for terrain in a crisis hex. Other terrain there. So that's it. So the French have 5 and let's see, 7. That's 12 to 4. So that's going to be 300%. Their supporting unit got through. So that's also going to give them some more as well too. That will then bump them up to 400%, and they can use the mechanized one, so they will, because they have a mechanized unit. So let's do that, just to see. And they rolled a 4. Sorry, that's something else. Mobile assault. Eliminate one defending unit. So the Germans will lose that unit out of that hex. So that will go there. And the cap's going to be removed here in a moment anyway. So MA, surviving defending units retreat 1 hex. Well, there's nobody else there. Attacking mechanized units may pursue 2 hexes. So I could go plunging into Frankfurt, but I don't know if that's the best idea in the world. Attacking non-mechanized units may pursue 1 hex. So what I think I'm going to do is this. I'm going to move... I have to do one or the other because of stacking limits. Okay, I'm going to move the big French army into there. But see, now that becomes, and as you can see, the way I just bumped that, the map is very crowded. Yeah, you know what? I think we'll do that for the time being. Because although the but then I can use the mechanized combat. Decisions, decisions, decisions. Well, let's see. What should I do? You know what? I'm going to go ahead and advance the army, and here's why. I'll get the crisis center from the Germans, so that will give me 2 crisis centers. So I'm going to adjust my dice up here. And the other reason I'm doing it is I'm still thinking about this end run. I'm still thinking about just, you know, saying sorry, Low Countries, but or Benelux countries, however you want to phrase it. But there's a war on here, and I need to get at the Germans, and I have to come through you. So sorry about that. Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's really the only thing we have to do with combat this time. I mean, I could launch another assault if I wanted to, but right now, because of the geopolitical situation, very, very limited things we can do here. So now the rally phase, remove terror bombings. There's markers. There are none right now. Germans remove cap from the map. I already did that simply because the map space got occupied. And then the Allies can put TAC units on the map that will perform caps. So I will do that. I'm going to take the Czech Air Force unit, which is still available, and put it over top of Pilsen. I mean, you know, I think that's the best bet. Putting it over Bratislava would protect the crisis spot, but if Czechoslovakia is going to hang in there for a while, I got to protect those mobilization centers. That's all there is to it. So I probably should have put those fortification markers up differently, but again, that's just, it's hard. Defending Czechoslovakia is not easy in the beginning of this game. Let's put it that way. Okay, so now we're up to the crisis phase. The interesting, complicated part of the game. So, 2 spaces, which means now there's 3 markers picked, and we'll implement those 3 markers, and then we'll basically call it quits for this video and go from there. So here we go. Okay, so let me go ahead and bring you in here so you can see what's happening. You can see them as I see them revealed. Okay. Oops. There we are. Here we go. All right, the first crisis chit. Bam! Ho, ho, ho! Great Britain is drawn. Now, what does that mean? It's very simple. The British are joining the Allied countries. So no matter when Great Britain is picked, it joins the Allies. So, whew, bad luck for the Germans. Ouch. So Britain will be coming in. I'll mobilize them here off camera in a little bit. Second one, General Strike. Now, that one could be of some use as far as internal issues go. General Strikes, basically, there's 3 type of domestic, if you will, markers in this game. There is the Putsch markers, which basically is potential coup d'etat, of course, inside Germany. There are also the General Strikes, okay, which deals with the Allied player, okay. The General Strike, basically, if it happens, the Allied player does not get any replacements or reinforcements for the rest of the game. So that can really cripple the Allied player big time. And then, of course, the Purge is the Soviet aspect of things here. So basically, when one of these markers is drawn, we take it and put it up. There's a special box up here on the map. It's red. You might have noticed it earlier, where there's General Strike, Putsch, and Red Army markers. And now we roll a die. And if we roll equal to or less than the number of markers in the box, that event is going to take place. So if France rolls a 1 right here, right now, bye-bye any more replacements, reinforcements for them. Now, strictly speaking in the rules, that's for all the Allied countries. One of the variants that's been mentioned, Scott Muldoon worked on this. He sent me a file the other day of some more optional rules to use for the Rhineland War. You roll it by country, so I would have to roll for the British and Czechoslovakia here in a minute. But let's start with the French and let's just see. So France rolled a 3, so no big deal for them. Czechoslovakia. Oh, well, Czechoslovakia has a General Strike. No more units for them. Ouch. All right. And what about the British, who just barely got into things? Nope, they're good to go. Okay, so Czechoslovakia, having some internal problems there, they will not get any more reinforcements or replacements for the remainder of the game. Ouch. Ooh. Huh. Yikes. Okay, what's the last one here? Last one here is League of Nations protest. Sorry, I didn't mean to snicker. Yes, I did mean to snicker. Who am I kidding? Ah, League of Nations. Like a cop with no gun. Stop, or I'll say stop again. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Oh, hey, look what it says. No effect, discard. Whoa, there's a shocker. Alright, so that's that. Okay, so now we're done with the crisis markers. And we're ready now to move on to the German phase of the next turn here in April of 1936. So the Czech units are removed from the game. So that's too bad for them. Ouch. Well, and again, here's that red box I was talking about. It's up here. Okay, so maybe what I'll do is, maybe I'll come back to this after another turn or so, once things really start to get rolling. Although, as you can see, right out of the gate, like I said before, things can really hit the ground running. All right, because we already have an alliance of France, Britain, Czechoslovakia, and Bulgaria ganging up on Germany at this point. Now, can the Germans turn the tide? Do the Germans now seriously need to consider attacking the French in the west? Or finish off Czechoslovakia first, try to do both at the same time? That's going to be rough. Go through the Low Countries, another possibility. I'll have to think about all that. The point being, of course, is that there's a lot of options here. And quite frankly, to kind of sum up the end of this here, my opinion about this game is it's a lot of fun. What if? You know, it's one of those games that every once in a while you pull out and you have a blast with. And then, you kind of put it away for a while. But it's a lot of fun while it goes on. It's very beer and pretzels, as the expression goes, games. But, hey, every game doesn't have to be a detailed simulation, down to the last, eyelash on the trooper that's got the heavy machine gun, for crying out loud, and we'll roll a modifier to see if he gets an eyelash in his eye or something. You don't necessarily need that, Sometimes you just need fun games that you can play around with, and just have fun with. And this qualifies. Some point I should do a video of like my favorite magazine games and my most disappointing magazine games. That could be a lot of fun, because I do have a lot of magazine games that I own. So there's a whole sample turn of the Rhineland War. I will say that it is a little pricey to get a hold of nowadays, so just bear that in mind. I managed to get my copy for a fairly reasonable price. I found one, but it is a little pricey, and it's a little hard to track down too, so just bear that in mind if you decide to look for that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll play a couple turns off camera, and then I'll come back with another turn. Maybe I'll play like April, May off camera, maybe April if things get really crazy, and come back and just show you a little bit more of the game flow and how it rolls. So there's a preliminary stab at the game, the preliminary turn, and this has been Tim Korchnoi from Bare Bones Wargaming, saying thanks for watching, and we'll be back next time with the Rhineland War as it develops more fully. See you then.